Hello, everyone. I guess you can hear me. I hope you can hear me. The technology is makes everything more tricky, and I'm so sorry I can't be there with you. That would be much more fun. But it is what it is, I guess. So let me share my screen. The slides. Are you ready to be an agile leader? Yes, I hope so. So I'll share with you my story, and I hope you find it inspiring. A little bit about myself. I wrote 2 books. The black one on the right side is actually a practical guide for all who want to improve their teams and organizations, how to become a great Scrum Masters. And the white one on the left-hand side is the new one, Becoming an Agile Leader. We were looking into some publishers in Ukraine translated either or, but unfortunately not. But the black one is translated to Russian, the white one and not yet, just Japanese. So if you can speak Japanese, you can read them. Or English, available on Amazon. Enough my promotion, I guess. So how it all started. One summer afternoon, 2010, I was given 3 departments of developers, testers, and hardware guys. And I was asked to form a single department of engineering out of them. The department with high collaboration, cross-functional teams across all those domains. And I was asked also to come up with my own idea, how I want to run this department next week at a board meeting. So I went home, and my first feeling was, wow, I can finally change it. I can do whatever I want to. And then it came back to me. The image of 100 people coming to me every day with those questions, requests, approvals. Can you tell me what to do here? Can you approve my vacation? It was just like overwhelming. It was too much. I felt tired already before I started. And it felt like weather before the storm. So I was close to give up. I was like saying, why do I always have to fight the system? Why do I always have to do things differently? Why? Why is that? Can I just give up and do it the same way as all the organizations are doing it? But the new day brought a new light and energy. And I guess I was ready to fight that system again. So my vision was actually to build an organization based on self-organizing teams with only Scrum Masters and no managers. Kind of a flat structure. Now, a little bit about the context, right? Our chairman of the board was a short man, over 60s, low voice, no hair, a typical traditional manager with like hierarchy, hard-coded in his DNA. Always wearing a suit, very formal, keeping a distance, and the aura of a person who would never be wrong. And that next week, I started my presentation, excited, right? I was like, I'm going to tell them how I see it. It's going to be great, but also nervous. And he's been clearly in a good mood, sitting in front, making jokes. And then he started a meeting. So let's hear about the engineering structure. We want to know what kind of managers you choose. I was like, I don't have any managers. What should I do, right? And it's just like internal thinking in my head, like really fast. Panic. And I was like, well, you asked me to come up with my own vision of this department. And so let me first summarize the goals we need to achieve. We wanted to have higher flexibility, faster learning environment, and technical excellence, this innovative, creative space, right? And I see some nodding. So I did a research of similar companies, I continue, and I end up with thinking about we really need to have a flat structure with self-organizing teams and no managers. And I already see those faces saying like, with no managers. It's like, yeah, no managers, because no management is actually enabler for the empowerment and motivation and creativity. And it emerges from this agile structure. So you want to make us all agile? Yes. Let's try that. And to be really honest here, I don't know what he said after that. He just said yes to my crazy idea. He has been fighting with it for the entire time. He doesn't like it internally. And I think the only reason why he said yes to me was because I actually started with those reasons why we needed change in the first place. So my first lesson I learned over the years is like, Agile is not your goal. It's just the best way how to achieve some of your goals. And what I want you to do now is to think in your head for just a little bit and think about, why do you change at your organization? Why would you change your way of working? Is there a reason? Is there anything strategic sitting in your head? We didn't care about being agile. I could not care less at that time. I just want us to be more flexible, bring higher value to our customers. Flexibility was something which differentiates us from all the other people. It brings the value to the board, to the executives as well, of our company. It brings the value to our customers. But I believe if I just say, hey, I want to implement Scrum, they would most likely say no. So most of the Agile transformations, so-called, are failing because those organizations aren't clear about why do we have to change. Agile is not your goal. And that's an artistic picture of the traditional hierarchical structure, like the org chart, right? With all the managers and departments and managers and managers and departments hierarchy. So I'm quite sure you all been there. Well, most of you, most likely. You've experienced it. It works. It's just very slow in making changes. So when we actually said, we need to be more flexible, we actually said this organization is designed for stability, efficiency in doing the same thing all over. But we need to actually shift it. We need to be very flexible. We need to be change responsive. We need to be dynamic. How you usually start an organizational change is with those small dots, yellow dots in this picture. You try to be a little bit more team-oriented. You try a bit of self-organization. Or maybe you try Scrum. You try Kanban. Different things, right? Like a bubbles of agility. And those bubbles, sometimes they might go really wrong. So they disappear and you restart and try again. And through that trying, through those experiments, you learn and learn and learn and learn. And eventually, without even noticing, you actually end up in this weird washing machine almost like, where the traditional structures and processes and managers and all those other things are sort of still trying to keep it stable, while those yellow dots, those bubbles of a new way of working, are actually trying to move it and shift it and change it. And it's really ugly, place or to be. But that's unavoidable. You have to go through that ugly washing machine during that washing machine, I hear a lot of those questions like, who is responsible? I was like listening and saying like, I don't know who is responsible. What's a silly question? My team is responsible. But the chairman always said that, no. The team can't be responsible. It's okay. Then I'm responsible. At the end of the day, I was, the only one responsible for all that stuff. No, you can't be responsible for everything. So we've got this never-ending disconnect. On one hand, he liked the energy which was coming from that. On the other hand, he really hated that instability and unpredictability and fuzziness. And he was fighting in his head. He was trying to find the system, the structure, the stability. But it was actually anything but being stable. Eventually, if you sustain long enough, you got something which I would call an agile organization. It's a collaborative, creative, and adaptive network. Right. So that's something which it was my third definition of agile organization: collaborative, creative, and adaptive network. And I found it fascinating how those different teams and different entities are sort of both connected but also independent to each other. Not completely independent, but I realized people were struggling with understanding this. So I came up with a different metaphor this time. Say, hey, you can imagine agile organization as a living organism. And that living organism might have different parts, like one hand, different hand, right? They are connected. I can't go with this one out of the window and with that one out of the door. It's too far, right? We can't do that. But we have certain autonomy around which we can actually make our own decisions, where to move, where to go, what to do. And it's adaptive. So if you go outside in the middle of the winter, I don't know, hard to imagine during the summer days, but still imagine middle of the winter, you go outside with just a t-shirt. Well, you immediately got your feedback saying, it's cold. What shall I do? And then you have a freedom to choose. Do I want to go back and take a sweater and maybe a coat and gloves and cap? Or I say, hey, it's not that cold. I'm going to be running or walking really fast. Which one is better? Who knows? Maybe those organizations who choose to be risking might actually die and not be here anymore because they got a cold and got really tough and not survive. And maybe just because you make those bold decisions, you actually become stronger. Who knows? It's unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know which one of those several options you have is the right one. That's the nature of the complex world. That's the only reasons why we have those agile organizations, because the traditional organizations were designed for dealing with predictability. You know what needs to be done exactly, and all what matters was how fast. Here, it actually doesn't matter. You don't know. And sometimes those best practices might end up with weaker organizations because you keep following something while the world already changed. Who knows what is right and what is wrong? There is actually no right, no wrong exists in a complex system. And then when I was describing it like a living organism and I say bibliophysis, I end up with the third metaphor for agile organization. And I think I steal it from Steve Denning, so give him a credit here. But what he said in one of his keynote was, you can imagine the traditional organization as a big tanker boat, that's the huge ship, which is actually fast, overcoming storms and everything. But if you need to change a course immediately, like right now, turn right, it's impossible. It's going still far there, and then eventually it will move. It takes time, not flexible at all, not change responsive. So agile organization is not like that tanker boat, which is actually fast and optimized for speed, but more like a flotilla of small boats. They might actually go slower, but they are more dynamic in finding their own decisions, their own way. And if there are some rocks, they actually make their own decision to go around. And they are not independent, they help each other. But, there is one but, you must have a strong vision. I'm sure you still remember the young ages where you've been all been going to the kids camp, right? I've been going to Scout, and we've been always playing some of those games. Like, for example, steal a flag from that, other camp or something like this. Now, we were independent. All those groups in that camp were independent because we want to win. On the other hand, we were helping each other because if any one of us get that flag, we all win. So there was a strong purpose. Now, sometimes in those organizations, it looks like, they give you that vision, mission, etc. And tell you, steal that flag. But those teams in that organization say, what flag? Why should we do that? We don't care about stealing a flag. I better go swimming. I think we should go fishing over there. I might go to the island and explore, right? So they actually don't buy in for that session very often. And then the autonomy will create a chaos because every autonomous group will go to different direction. So that's the downside of an agile organization. If you don't have a strong enough purpose, a strong enough sense of urgency, why to change, and strong enough purpose, which will unify people and help them to be together, it usually breaks down. It's easier to build a traditional structured organization, like 100 times easier. And it's faster if you know what to do. The problem is that nowadays we don't know what to do. We need to experiment, inspect and adapt, learn from failures, be creative. And that creativity will only emerge from autonomy and more vague structures. So purpose is another thing, right? But there is one more tip. Leaders need to change first. The organization will follow. Now, I need to give you one disclaimer, as people sometimes don't take that slide as I meant it. So when I say leaders, I don't mean managers. Because in Agile organization, you don't have any managers necessarily. They're two different things. But everyone here, you are all leaders. And the only thing you need to make to become a leader is in your head. Make that decision. Say, I'm ready to take a step towards somewhere, and I'm ready to take an initiative and go for it. And I'm ready to take all the ownership and responsibility. That's what leadership means. So, hey, I want to achieve this. Anybody willing to help me? Because I believe it's going to be great. That's the vision there, right? And if that vision is appealing enough for all the people around you, they'll say, oh, I'll help you. That's a really great idea. Can I help you? How can I do that? Can I do this? Can I do that? And it's interesting because I've seen so many big vision slides in organizations. And when you ask people in a big corporation, like, what is your vision? What is the purpose? Why you are here as this organization? Unfortunately, very often, what you hear back, it's like, I don't know, it's on some slide. Yeah, it was in that presentation. Do you remember that? No, I don't, right? Not buying, not going for it. So if you actually implement the Agile principles in that organization first, like autonomy, without that vision, it will only create chaos. So leaders need to change first. The people need to sort of wake up. They are all the leaders. Just some of you might be still sleeping and think, I'm waiting for somebody to tell me what to do, like this. But then one day you wake up and say, hey, I have an idea and I want to go for it. So that's what being a leader really means. And if you have a critical mass of those people, the organization will just shift no matter what. And then you got that energy. So those type of things are super fascinating, like system dynamics, how to change the system from something to something else. That would actually keep me doing Agile, teaching Scrum, coaching organizations, coaching leaders, helping them to grow. It's because sometimes when you enter organization, the traditional one, it's sort of like sleeping, annoyed, saying like, I'm going here because they pay me. And then 1 year after, you actually got this enthusiastic people who care, who are coming with their own ideas. They're all leaders. That's what motivates me in this Agile space, because it brings the energy to woke up the leaders back. How, right? That's ultimate question. If that would be simple, we are all great. Just buy this tool or just implement some framework. It just, unfortunately, doesn't work this way. All those frameworks and all those, well, some of those tools are here to help us to change that mindset here. And that's tough. Sometimes that's like a chicken egg problem, right? You can be just start as a Scrum Master. You can't be a great Scrum Master unless you experience Scrum. But how can you experience Scrum without really starting it? And it's sort of difficult, right? but really experience a team collaborative work, the autonomous teams, self-organizing teams, cross-functional teams is the critical beginning for understanding how that organization can work on the same principles. The principles are the same. The skills are the same. They just need to be applied on a larger ecosystem. So that's the most tough one. Now, I have a few things for you here. This is my, I guess, most recent concept of culture. I've been speaking about culture for years. My first talk at a conference was about culture. And people were like still puzzled, etc. So I eventually came up with this clam. It's like a sea creature, right? It has those two halves. You can go closer and far away and closer and far away. It can click really fast. If you can actually put those two halves away from each other, the culture dies, the organization dies. So you can't really do that. So the one half is a structure, the other half is a mindset. They're connected. Now, what is this? What are those two halves really about, right? So at the bottom part in a structure, we have those typical things like how the decisions are made. What is our strategy, tactics? What is our structure, hierarchy, power? But also, what are those roles and position schemes, career path, rewards, salaries, how we do the bonus. And then, of course, governance, measures, policies, rules, processes, all those things. They will give you a certain space. The mindset lives on top of that. So it's about behaviors, responsibility. Do you take ownership and responsibility, right? Self-organization, self-management. But do you have the organizational purpose, this higher need? Why are we here? What would happen if we disappear like this? Right? Is it important? Do we have our values clear? Identity, beliefs. Do we have trust? Do people collaborate? Do they feel safe? Safe to fail even? Openness, those type of things, right? Now, the part of the never-ending question is like where you should start. Now, my experience is that most of the organizations have flexible enough structure piece here. So you can actually start working on the mindset. But then, if that goes too far away, it needs to click, and then it goes again far away and it clicks. It's like a balance you need to find, right? Like this. Moving up and down. So to give you a real example, when I was starting with a flat structure based on really self-organizing teams, no managers, it was not the first thing we did. We were actually experiencing Scrum on several different projects, several different customers for like 5 years. We were trying it there. We just never tried on a large scale across higher collaboration across bigger space. But we learned how to help a team to be self-responsible for actually, for example, can I take a vacation? It was never no from organization. It was always like, hey, I need to make sure the team is okay with it. And the team needs to know that everybody can take a vacation anytime they need, and they need to self-organize and manage it somehow, etc. Right? So it was like responsibility, ownership, all those things together. We actually changed the position schemes. We were aiming for not having a skill-based positions. We actually end up having a sort of a team member position. It was just not too fancy enough for our board, so they eventually said it needs to be called engineer. So we have an engineer position. We never have like a team member, right? It's the same thing, just called fancy. But we didn't have a tester, developer, hardware, nothing like that, just an engineer. We actually changed the bonuses. We changed the way how we did performance reviews. But we can only do that because we already have certain mindsets in place, a critical mass of people who understand that autonomy needs responsibility as well. It's never like, hey, I do whatever I want. No, I can do whatever I want, but I have a responsibility to help this team to be successful. So, interesting stuff. What else? System point of view. Agile organization is like a system, really. It's you can imagine it like looking at that, being an agile leader. You don't really care about those details, like how exactly this thing is done. I don't think that's so important anymore. But actually, be able to go up and look at the organization from this 10,000 view distance, like observation tower view, and we call it listen to the voice of a system, because whatever is happening in that organization is a voice of a system. Who knows what is right and what is wrong? In complex issues, there is no right, no wrong. It's just happening. What looks really great from this perspective might be actually really bad from that perspective, and neutral from here and funny from there, etc. The more complex the organization is, the more hard it is to say what is right, what is wrong. Do small experiments, inspect and adapt, improve. And the last line is maybe the most important one, saying everyone is right, but only partially. So that is inclusivity. Saying like, if somebody is frustrated, well, there is at least 2% of truth, and we should do something about it. No right, no wrong, no black and white. But okay, those people are frustrated. How can we help them? Those people are happy. How can we bring that positivity to the other spaces? So if you want to be agile leader, there is a Competence Star kind of thing. First, you must have a vision. If you don't have a vision, you can't really become a leader. That's the starting point. I want to achieve this. I believe that this is going to be great, right? And then if you have it right, actually the motivation will come, partially at least, from that vision. It's like an engine for that. And then feedback. In Agile space, we talk much more about learning from feedback than giving the feedback. So now do a simple reflection in your head. How many times you learn from a feedback from your peers? And how many times you sit and say, hey, they don't understand. I know better. Learn from feedback. It's tough. But do you ask for feedback? You ask, what can I improve? Like this feedback dinner, right? Or lunch. What can I do better? What is annoying on me? And it's tough to ask that question, but that's part of it. Then on those two sides, you can either decide and collaborate. Even in Agile space, time to time, you have to make your own decisions. We're going to do this. And we inspect and adapt if it doesn't work. Or sometimes it's more about collaboration, not necessarily delegation, because you don't really own that much things. But collaborate. Can we do it together? On the other right side, coach and facilitate. Those two things are critical, because the more complex and diverse is a system, the more you need to help them by facilitating and coaching skills to come up to agreement, to discover things, to leverage the creativity. And finally, at the bottom, how do you deal with change? And there are three segments. Changing yourself. That was the most tough for me. I guess it's for everyone. But I still remember how I was like sharing that vision of that collaborative, self-organizing space. And then I didn't behave that way. There was a stress, some client called something. I was good at building trust in that organization and openness. So they always come back to me and say, hey, yesterday, you remember what you did? It was quite against. I say, yeah, it was quite against what I tell you. We are supposed to be doing. Sorry about that. But I did. I always went public and say, hey, I got that feedback. Thank you for that. And I actually realized it. And I'm on that journey with you. So be consistent, be open about your own failures. You're never going to be ideal. But changing yourself, your own behaviors, your own habits, that's the most difficult. Then you can implement the change by putting some tools maybe, or practices, or frameworks even, right? And through that, people will change their mindset in structure and everything. And then the last thing is changing through working with system, like the observation tower view, where we're working with a culture, working with leadership, working with how people behave. All that together is sort of your map, mind map as a leader. What I always ask people when they go to my Agile leadership classes is like, look at that and think about what are your strengths. So maybe you can spend a few seconds to thinking, what is my strength as a leader? What I'm great at? For me, currently, I think it's changing me. But it's changing over the years. And now once you have that, look at that picture again and think about, where is my weakness? It's not completely wrong or completely like zero skill for that, but where do I need to improve the most concerning my organization, my role? It might be that in one organization, your weakness is facilitation. And it might also be that in another organization that might become your strength, and your weakness might be collaboration. So again, what is my weakness here? I think motivation currently. And I might come up with some action steps to do something about it, right? And if you do that reflection, I usually do it like every 6 months or every 12 months, depending on the year and on that progress I made. But it's one of those things. It will change. It will help you to figure out, okay, where do you need to move next as a leader? Now, mindset. This is my favorite book concerning mindset. It's called Tribal Leadership. And it goes around different stages of that mindset, like life sucks, where people don't see light. It's like everything is so bad. And I don't even understand why you're laughing, because you just don't get it. Life sucks. The second stage, my life sucks. Well, that's much better, because I already understand that there are some people like you guys, you're happy. You have great jobs, great everything, and I'm not. My life sucks because I don't have it, right? So it's only you who is black and depressed. Then I'm great and you're not, right? It's a typical sort of big corporation mindset of the managers. I'm great because I'm a manager, and you're not because you're just an employee, right? Not really nice. Like that. So that's, as you might guess, the mindset of the managers, if it's like that, will very often generate a lot of employees in my life sucks. Because my life sucks because I have such a bad boss, for example. Then those are still the traditional mindsets. Organizations might be there and there. Actually, the brightest version of I'm great and you're not are those corporations who actually invest a lot into learning and sometimes even over specialization. They say everyone here could be great at something. We have such a detailed narrowed down position, so everybody finds his own greatness. So I'm great because I'm best in Java 5.0, and you're great because you're great at drawing pictures, and you're great because you can actually come up with the best purchase of chairs for our organization, for our offices, right? Over specialization. And that's quite a nice environment to be at, actually. Not a bad thing. Everybody can experience their own success and greatness. Now, if you shift into Agile space, there is this we are great. So from me, it's actually shifted to we. We are a great team. There's still a little, and you're not. The other teams in our organization are not as great as we are. Right. And if you grow through that journey, you say we are a great organization because we are agile, and those other organizations are not. And eventually you might end up in this life is great, saying, we don't even have competitors. We're dealing with cancer, for example, right? They're great. We have such a big purpose, mission in our lives. So we'll help even the other companies to achieve it because we believe it doesn't matter. We're all going to be successful if we help each other. Win-win sort of thing. Now, you can also have this sort of a reflection in your head. Where is your organization? Well, the majority, not where is it, where are you? You're going to be far there. But where is the majority of your organization? And think about it. And where are the other organizations we know? Mentally, mindset-wise, majority of the people. It's not about individuals. Individuals are going to be around all the line, but where are the major tribe, as they call it. If you're interested in more details, get that book. It's one of my favorites. Well, another book, I'm in my book recommendation phase. So that one is called Turn the Ship Around. I specifically like it because sometimes the big organizations, those fancy corporations are telling me, yeah, this Agile is for startups. But we are the bank or we are, something else. And it will never work in our organization. So I usually point them to this book and tell them, you know what? If it could work in U.S. Navy submarine, I guess it can work in your organization as well. What they did, they didn't call it Agile, but they actually say there are two types of leadership. The leader-follower, where actually the leader is here to give you orders and the followers just follow. Yes, sir. While the other one is like leader-leader. So what they came up with in that organization is to actually come up with this leader-leader space where all the crew was pretty much saying, I intend to do this. And the officer was just saying yes, right? But it was bottom-up grown ideas. And they actually became the most successful submarine in that space. Again, second recommendation. At the end of the day, it's about, can you help others to become leaders? Because it's not just about you. If you're the only one who is willing to take the ownership and responsibility in that organization and willing to try, that's not enough. You need to help others to become leaders and support this we culture. Bring the first people in, create the allies. Don't be yourself. Summary of my 3 tips. Agile is not your goal. It's just the best way how to achieve some of your most strategic goals. So before you start changing anything or implementing anything or transforming anything, step back and think about why do we have to change? What happens if we don't change? What is the urgency? And unless you're able to create a sense of urgency, which not only you understand, but the rest of the organization buy in for, don't change. Leaders need to change first. The organization will follow. So can you step up and start behaving differently? Can you become a role model for that organization? They will follow. It's catchy. And eventually, it's not just about you shifting. It's about helping others to do that similar shift as well. Help the others to become leaders, support the we culture. You can connect with me over LinkedIn. There are links to my website, blogs, etc., books. I wish you good luck in this conference. I'm really sorry I can't be there with you. I'm looking forward to be face-to-face again as soon as I can. And if you have any questions later, feel free to send me a message or anything. Enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you very much.